Good morning, Dr. Schein. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Sandy.
Can you believe it's been a week? I mean, these weeks are just flying by, aren't they? And you've had a
They
lot.
sure do.
So I know you're back at school with at the University of St. Thomas. By the way, Dr. Schein was he spoke on Saturday when we had an event, a virtual event with the Houston Writers Guild. And after you did your, I don't know if you saw the number of people that said they were an alumni of the University of St. Thomas.
It was quite impressive. Yes, the University of St. Thomas, founded in 1947, has been around for a while, and we are a true Houston institution. And of course, we're working on forging forward and making some new history.
Saving America. That's our podcast. That's Dr. Schein's podcast. He is very well versed in all the things we'll be talking about, as you will experience on this today's episode. And then go back, subscribe to it, go back and check some of the previous episodes, and you'll see how in touch with what's going on Dr. Schein stays. So we break the podcast into 3 segments. First segment, in the news. And today, Dr. Schein is going to talk about the confirmation of Barrett. And I always remember when somebody has 3 names, it confuses me to say all 3 names. But she was sworn in last night by Justice Thomas. So, David, let's talk about the new Supreme Court judge that we have. That's your final answer?
Well, this is a very momentous event. The press seems to be totally occupied with saying, oh my God, the Supreme Court is 6-3 majority conservative. Oh my God, and they're tearing their hair out, and they're criticizing the Senate, and they're criticizing Trump for doing something that Trump was frankly hired to do. And I think it's very significant. Naturally, like all Americans, I am concerned that if the Democrats take control of the Senate, that they will try to pack the court. And as you know, Roosevelt tried to pack the court unsuccessfully. Thank goodness the Congress stood up to him at that time in the 1930s. But I think 9 is a good number. Apparently, we did have 7 at one point, and they did increase it to 9, and that's been a very long time ago. And but I'd like people to focus more on her extraordinary life and her extraordinary credentials. And I mean, here we have a woman with school-age children. She has 2. She's white. She has 2 African-American children by adoption. She also has a disabled child. I think this is somebody who can really relate to America as a diverse community, and I think that she will be a very fair justice. She has an extraordinary background. She taught at Notre Dame before she went to the judiciary, and while there were some professors at Notre Dame who later protested, the fact is that the Notre Dame alumni came out overwhelmingly lauding her as a great teacher, and she has done a fine job as a justice on the appellate court since President Trump appointed her there. And I think also lost in the hysteria is the fact that a black justice appointed by a Republican, Justice Clarence Thomas, did the swearing in last night. So as I heard somebody say on the radio this morning, a conservative commentator, this is the diversity of the Republican Party, contrary to this false narrative that the Democrats are the party of the women and minorities. So I just think it's very interesting, and I think it's quite sad that people are attacking her as a person, and I think that's very unfounded.
Thank you very much. And I don't know if anyone watched the the Congress and they're questioning her and all of that. But I thought definitely she did stand up and stand out a lot during that. So pointing out that Clarence Thomas is the one that swore her in, and that is something to consider, that we live in a time when the Supreme Court is not all white or all black, or that it's very diverse.
Yes.
So each week we talk about the rumor going on. That's part 2 of the podcast. What's in the rumors? And this week you were going to talk about Biden and his son Hunter, and how they're mixed up together in whatever's going on.
Well, the weakest link. Goodbye.
Well, this is a fascinating story because the mainstream media has been trying to peddle a Trump under control of Russia and China and all that, which is just so ridiculous, because Trump has taken an extremely hard line with China. When he banned air traffic from China following the discovery of the Wuhan virus, Joe Biden came out and said, "Oh, he's xenophobic." And they keep saying that Putin wants Trump. And I think the last thing that Putin wants is another 4 years of a tough guy like Trump. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. And then on top of all of this, I don't know how this happens, but Hunter Biden apparently brings his laptop in to have it repaired. And why he picked a month or so before the election or whenever he did it. But apparently the laptop had such strange information on that it was turned over to the FBI. And we got introduced to a character who has now gone public. He has a strange last name, Bobulinski, and he was directly involved in making the connections. And there are actually emails on Hunter Biden's laptop where he is saying $850,000 a year is not enough because I'm bringing the big guy, referring to his father clearly. And Bobulinski says now, he's been interviewed very recently, that he personally met with Biden to talk about this, what I believe it's certainly absolutely unethical, but it is possibly illegal to sell political favors. And so I think this could bear a great deal of investigation. Now, one of the people may say, well, gee, why doesn't Bill Barr and the Justice Department jump in there and do something right away? Well, the problem is that the people who work for the federal government are overwhelmingly Democratic. They are unionized, and they have clear-cut loyalties to the Democratic Party. And so it's not as simple as saying, hey, let's get put a team together of the Justice Department and go after this guy, because the employees are not people who are enthused about going after anyone who's a Democrat. And of course, that means that we have justice for sale across the board. But it's interesting because the major media has attempted to suppress the information, but even I think CNBC, MSN, even some big networks and big internet providers have finally said, you know what, we tried to suppress this, but there's too much here. This is not false. So I believe that a few weeks ago, Facebook tried to prevent posts talking about Bobulinski, Hunter, and Biden, but I would certainly hope by now that they have realized that this is not some wild hair, terrible thing, and all that. We're not going to talk about Section 230 today, by the way, the censorship by the big internet service providers and social media providers. But the point still stands that I think even many of them have said, whoa, you know what? This is way too hot. I don't know that with 60 million people having already voted in this election, that it'll have an impact on the election, but I would hope it would have some impact on the election for, last minute voters. But That's the rumor of the week. It's quite something.
That is a rumor too. That's big, big, lots to talk about it. So, as you said, it's gotten bigger than we thought, and it could, definitely having some people quieting it and decisions being made. So,
Yes.
so let's move on from the rumors now to the facts. What are the facts? What about the second presidential debate, Dr. Schein? What are the facts on that?
Just the facts, ma'am.
The second presidential debate reminds me of what I just talked about, where the mainstream media had to break through and just admit that Trump trumped on Biden, and he did exactly what people wanted him to do in the first debate. And unfortunately, that would have been earlier and would have done him more good. But even the major media outlets had to admit that Trump had the facts, just the facts. And it's a very difficult path in terms of speaking the truth for Biden to argue any of the things that he tried to argue. Obamacare is a disaster, and it caused insurance rates to go up substantially. As we've talked about on previous Saving America episodes, it's people with pre-existing conditions cannot afford insurance. And I've spoken with some people in the last few days who again expressed outrage that people would say Obamacare protected people with pre-existing conditions, because if you do not put cost controls on that, and I have a formula for that, it's very simple. You just say if there's 6 or 7 group health providers or individual health providers in the state, then what you can do is you can say to them, you can charge 50% more than you charge anybody else if someone has a pre-existing condition, but you take those people round robin or proportionate to the number of people you have in a state. So if an insurance company has 500,000 insured in a state, and that represents 10% of the total insured population, then they would take 10% of people with pre-existing conditions at an increased rate, but a controlled rate. So there is certainly an easy fix for the situation, and one that Obamacare has never included because it is a failed program. Biden also attempted to say that things were going well with his economic recovery with him and Obama. And the fact is very straightforward. The Obama-Biden recovery was the worst recovery in the history of America, coming back from many, many recessions and the Great Depression. So that is certainly not anything you can run on. I think I mentioned after the first debate that one of the more interesting pieces was that Trump said, I got more done in 47 months than you did in 47 years. And it is true. Biden is a largely undistinguished individual. And so I thought that was a very straightforward. And the economy has done very well. Trump did not carry this issue as well as he might have, but certainly the stock market has done remarkably well. And Biden said, oh, well, that's just about rich people. And you know what's interesting about that is that the majority of working Americans have either 401k plans from private insurers, or as I do at the University of St. Thomas, a 403b plan. These are tax-protected savings plans that are largely invested in the stock market. So most Americans have received a significant boost in the last almost 4 years because of the strong economy. Trump said under his breath during the debate last week, 401k plans, but he didn't really get to expand the issue, but I think it's quite clear. And so I think that overall, that for what good it does, again, being fairly late in the election cycle, I think that Trump won with the facts last Thursday night, and Biden did not distinguish himself. And of course, Biden, subsequent to that, has gotten out there because they're trying to push states like Texas and Georgia into the blue from the red zone. And what's happening in those situations is Biden, who's been hiding in the basement, has had to come out, and he's been out for more hours per day. And his gaffe machine protection of hiding in the basement is starting to fade. And famously, a couple days ago, Biden referred to the current president as George Bush, and his wife was sitting next to him, and under her breath, she corrected him. And he stumbled and said that, but he's really not a sharp guy. And, you know, I don't play to the idea that it's because he's 77 and he's gotten a little off his game, but he's some great guy. I have spent most of my time on the East Coast when I haven't been in Texas. I've known who Biden was for a long time because Biden has been a pathetic bumbler for his entire career. This is not something new. This is Biden being Biden. And I just have a hard time imagining the United States run by him. And I have a very hard time imagining that China, Russia, Iran have any fear of a Biden presidency. If anything, I think they would be quite happy. Again, Trump has ruined the Iranian economy by the sanctions, the very tough sanctions that he's put on Iran. So when people talk about election interference from both Russia and Iran, which is what we're hearing in the news right now, I think that their efforts would certainly be to sabotage Trump, not to help him. So anyway, but that's what's in the news this week.
Wow, what an exciting time this is. So we have less than 1 week. Well, 1 week from today, actually, when we have the election. And again, once again, let me remind you that you can get this book. There's a whole section in the book. And what is that section called, Dr. Schein? At the end of the book, where you kind of do a comparison of all of them, the analysis of 100 years of American presidents.
Yes, we talk about the economics. We talk about the marketing of the presidency. And I make a series of recommendations. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of, I think saving the American democracy is going to require term limits. And that could lead to a little bit more instability in government from some people's viewpoint. But I think it would be a very healthy thing to have more true representatives in Congress instead of these people who are in for 47 years and for 30 years and 40 years. And many of them are Republicans. This is a bipartisan observation. It's time for us to have a representative democracy, which was the founding fathers' design. And to do that, we need to send people to Washington, get the job done, and come home and live under the rules that they have passed.
I think that's great. And just flipping through these chapters on the analysis, the proposal for improving future American presidents, and then the media and creating the myths of American presidents. This is all the way from Woodrow Wilson to Barack Obama. So it does not include Trump, however, back 100 years from Barack Obama. So get this. Look to see how all the different presidents handled when they had a crisis. And all of them did. So check to see, do the analysis, the comparison, and then you can make an educated vote on November 3rd next week. So Dr. Schein, once again, thank you very much for taking the time to expound on what's in the news, what the rumors are, and then just the facts. So thank you very much, and look forward to talking to you again next week, which will be election day. We'll be talking next week. So
yes, ma'am.
We'll have a great time next week.
Thank you, Sandy. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Okay. Talk to you then. Bye.